Reader, come closer. I am just starting another reading vlog, and I gotta say, like, last week's reading vlog had a lot of sort of like structure to it. I had a week off, I was vlogging the entire week, I was kind of balancing out what I wanted to indulge in, whereas what I felt like I should probably also be doing during that time. This week is not going to be that. This week is just going to be chaotic. And I think we are going to structure it. We're going to structure it around a goal, and my goal is going to be finishing my current reads. I have 3 current reads at the moment. One of them I'm like, I'm not going to have any issues trying to finish that within this week, or I'm not going to have any issues like focusing on it or whatever. But I basically kind of want to clear the slate by the end of this vlog, so that in the final week of this month we can get around to sort of like priorities for this month, because I do like priorities is speaking wrongly, like the remaining priorities for this month. This makes it, otherwise it sounds as if I've been like wasting my time away, and I definitely haven't been. I've been getting around to 3 books within series that I absolutely adore, 3 books that have like just come out. Within the first few days I've gotten around to reading them, so this has definitely not been a waste of time. These definitely were priorities. However, there are more books that are sort of like books that I like. If at the beginning of this month I had sort of like a wish list of which books I wanted to get done, these are also on there, and so I hope to still get around to them within this month, because I want to keep December sort of like priority free. And so for that reason I want to get my current reads out of the way by the end of this vlog, so that in that final week I can at the very least focus on 3 probably of the books that I still really want to get done within the month of November. But so, first things first, I am currently reading a book that no longer has its dust jacket on it, but so The Strength of the Few by James Islington. So I am 166 pages into it. This is 708 pages, I think, in terms of the text. 720 is what it says, but that is also with acknowledgements and glossary and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying this one. This is the sequel to The Will of the Many, which was battling it out with another book for my favorite book of 2024, and so I expect this one to be battling it out for my favorite book of 2025 as well. So far really enjoying it. So The Will of the Many is a story in which we take this orphan boy called Vis, who has basically a little bit of a tragic backstory because he was the prince to an island called Zeus. However, the Catalan Empire kind of invaded this island, killed off the royal family. He managed to get away, and so he's now hiding within the Catalan Empire, pretending to just be an orphan boy over there to just survive and try and get enough funding in order for him to be able to escape should the need ever arise. However, he's been laying low. However, he's spotted by this guy in a little bit of a higher up position, and due to circumstances, he thinks that Vis is ideal for him to use to infiltrate the island of Solivagus and find out the secrets that are hidden at the academy there, because this person's brother died over on the island, and he is convinced that there is something the matter with that island. And so we will follow Vis on his journey to figure out what is going on there. Will of the Many, amazing read. Love the character of Vis, and that book just has a lot of twists and turns, a lot of depth and history and world building around it. It's just like chef's kiss. It's amazing. James Islington does it again. I love his Lacanian trilogy, and with this series he's going along that same sort of path. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying my time with The Strength of the Few. This will not be a difficulty like finishing it within this week. The only difficulty will be in the fact that I have work to do, and so I cannot just fully indulge in it and give it all the time that I would like to be giving it. But even in combining, like even with the fact that I've had limited time to read it within the past 2 days, I have already gotten a quarter of the way into this book over those 2 days, and so I do definitely think that I'll be able to get this one done within this week. But will I have enough time to do the other stuff? The second other book that I'm reading at the moment is The Will to Battle, which is a 3rd book in the series by Ada Palmer. It is the 3rd book in the Terra Ignota series. I'll talk to you guys about that and what it is a little bit later. I just don't want to front end all of these sort of like discussions of what the books are, but so I'm a third of the way into that one. I will mainly be listening to that one when I'm cooking and when I'm on the commute. So it was not my highest priority out of these three, because basically out of the books that I still want to get read this month, the vast majority of what really needs to happen this month is physical, and so audiobook is just like a nice add-on, because I definitely have audiobook options that I want to get to, but they feel like less of a priority. And then the other thing that I want to get done, and this is sort of like crucial and also probably going to be the most difficult thing to combine with the Strength of the Few, is my reread of Those Above. I am some 40% into my reread of it, but one of those books that I really want to prioritize in the last week of November is the sequel to this. This is a duology, and so yeah, I do definitely need to finish this reread within this week in order to be able to just like straight on go into the sequel, Those Below, within the next vlog, within the final week of the month. So yeah, I'm just going to be chipping away at that, I think, throughout the week. I'm trying to see if I can get like what is the final chapter within this? 36, no 37, okay, 38 even. And I'm 14 in, so I do still have like over 20, I have like 24, so I would need to read 2 chapters a day in order to kind of like evenly split it throughout the week. So I guess we'll try to do that. Maybe in the mornings I'll always read a chapter, and then in the evenings another one, and hopefully that won't derail my Strength of the Few reading too much, because yeah, that's definitely what I want to be focusing on throughout this week. But so yeah, no real plans. I'm going to meet up with a friend tomorrow morning for breakfast, so that is going to cut a little bit into my time, and I do still have to prepare one video for the Wednesday release next week. Aside from that, the video for this afternoon I've just done. The video for Monday I had already done, so we are relatively on track with content creation. So yeah, that is going to be my plans for this week. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, it is time for me to start reading for today. Hello! So it is Wednesday after work. I am quite far along, I want to say. I think I am when it comes to this challenge. I am currently this far, which I don't think you can see all that way, into the Strength of the Few, but I'm at page 472 out of 708. So I have some 240 or so pages to go in this book. And so I have tonight, tomorrow night and Friday night in which I can potentially still read it. I mean, I can read it after that as well, of course, but in terms of like trying to get it done within this vlog, that is like the time frame for it. And I put up a poll yesterday over on my Discord asking whether I should try and get all of my currently reading up to like 70%, or whether I should just focus on Strength of the Few for the time being. And actually, somewhat unfortunately, you guys chose for getting Strength of the Few, like focusing on Strength of the Few, which I think, I mean, thanks for that, because it's of course a book that I really, really want to be focusing on, because it is definitely a new release that I'm super excited about. But I am definitely also enjoying myself more now with Those Above, with my reread for that, and I kind of was somewhat mentally thinking like, okay, I'm going to try and get everything to 70% tonight, 80% tomorrow, 90% on Friday, and then hopefully actually get some of those done on Friday, and if not, kind of extend this vlog a little bit into Saturday. But so we're going to do it differently now, which doesn't necessarily mean that's, you know, the plan to finish it all on Friday or if need be on Saturday is out the window. We're just going to tackle it a little bit differently. So I'm going to hopefully get quite a fair bit into Strength of the Few tonight. Got to admit that it is already like, what, 7 o'clock, and I haven't started reading yet for tonight. But yeah, let's just hope that I can still get quite a fair bit into this one tonight. And then, yeah, that'll be that. I do still have, like, I am still in the middle of a chapter for The Will to Battle, which is my audiobook on the way back home, and I had to change into my pajama pants when I got home because it was absolutely raining when I returned on my way home. It started out not that bad, and I didn't look at the weather forecast ahead of time, and so like somewhere along the way it just started raining more and more heavily, to the extent where all of a sudden I was fully soaked by the time I got home. But so yeah, the intention is for me to try and get but so yeah, I don't know whether I'm gonna try and finish that chapter. I think I'll just leave it at this for the time being, and maybe like right before going to bed I might listen to the remainder of that chapter when my eyes are no longer able to like visually read in Strength of the Few for the rest of the evening, and then yeah, I might still finish it out, and otherwise yeah, I'll just leave this one interrupted like midway through the chapter and just continue on tomorrow morning on my commute to work. But so yeah, that's the plan for tonight. Just wanted to check in because I feel like I haven't checked in except for the beginning of this vlog, so it's gonna be a short one I think, because I don't think I'll have a lot of updates throughout, but hopefully it'll still be one that you guys enjoy. Hello, it is 3:30 on Saturday and I have just finished The Strength of the Few. And you could be like, well, you're a little bit behind, right? I was going to finish on Friday, but you would still be wrong because I actually just failed. I did finish The Strength of the Few finally, but you know, I made more than that goal within this video. The goal was to finish all 3 of my current reads, and this is the only one that I managed to finish. Now, in my defense, I did definitely stop myself from listening to The Will to Battle yesterday evening, because otherwise that would have been my 100th completed book of the year, and I really wanted The Strength of the Few to be that book, so I could have definitely proceeded more with that, because I was definitely feeling quite tired for physical reading, and I could have continued with some audiobook reading. But so yeah, I have less than an hour to go into The Will to Battle, so that's not the real problem. And as you know from an earlier clip within this vlog, it was also like the lowest of the priorities. But those above is a little bit of an issue, because I believe that I'm like 57% into that one, so really not that far in. I mean, I am far in, as in I'm like over halfway in, but like considering I wanted to finish it, not that far in. Now I will say that like I basically stopped continuing on in those above because I did that poll and it told me to focus on The Strength of the Few, but I definitely was really enjoying those above, and I was flying through those above a lot more the last few times that I was reading it, so I'm still hopeful that that doesn't necessarily hold me back too far from potentially still finishing those below this month, or at least definitely in time for the 1 year cutoff time. Will I still have enough time in the remaining week and a day to finish both those above and the Ashfire King? Probably not. Definitely not to then also read like the Anne of Avonlea book and the Braiding Sweetgrass book, but let's just focus on those 2 first. But so okay, I have finished The Strength of the Few in the end. I definitely did struggle with it in the final days, so I have ended up at the moment at a rating of 3.75, which is quite harsh, and it is mainly because of really struggling with it for the past 2 days, and I don't know whether that is like just a book or whether maybe I was really just tired and that was why I wasn't really going through the pages. But I do definitely feel like I didn't have the same motivation with this book that I had with the first book, and I do feel like in the first half of The Strength of the Few I did still have that motivation. I did still have those pushes that made me kind of go through large chunks of this book in one go. However, the way it kind of developed later on, like it sparked less of an emotional investment. It sparked less of my sort of like forward momentum. And as indicated earlier, there are sort of like different plot lines that we're following within this book, and some interest me more than others, and that stayed the same throughout, though I will say that like 2/3 of it were fine with me. It's just the 1/3 that like I basically every single time I saw that the chapter was going to be that perspective, I was like, ugh, must we? And that's not to say that it is bad, it's just that I was more interested in knowing what was going to continue in the other 2 than in that particular one. And so I do have to take some of this away from this book. I do feel like there are certain things that appeal to me as a reader in the first book that kind of form less of the groundwork in this second book, but the ending for this second book once again really intrigues me and makes me think like, ooh, okay, maybe things are going in a different direction than what we've been thinking. Because basically there are these truths that we find out throughout book 1 and part of book 2, and basically now we're starting to question whether those truths are actually truths or whether they were also sort of like misinterpretations and stuff like that, and like something else is still going on and there are still more answers for us to find out. But yeah, I did enjoy this. I definitely, like I say, 3.75 feels like a harsh one because I do definitely feel there's so much merit to this, there's so much interesting things to unpack within this one, to examine with this one. I nearly cried towards the end, so I was definitely emotionally invested again towards the end, but there's just too much of this book in which I was kind of like struggling and my interest was waning, and it was really just sort of like a chore to continue on. I definitely feel like I had that sort of like feeling for maybe like even 200 pages of this book, and in a 720 page book, 200 pages is still just sort of like under a quarter, but it definitely isn't nothing neither. It definitely felt like that, you know, I definitely didn't have that feeling with book 1. Book 1 definitely kept me more engaged throughout, and it's also because of reasons that I cannot go into. Book 1 is just is more structured, it's like one flow, and the second book is more splintered, and that's intentional, but that also meant that for me personally it felt like a little bit more of a struggle to go through. And whereas you could potentially see how if we're having 3 stories that are building towards a climax, that ending would then just be like extra impactful because you are building towards 3 climaxes, that did not end up being the case for me. Like one of them, as I said, I really cared very little about that particular storyline, and so for that one it didn't have that feeling for me. And sure, I cared more about one of the other ones, but it definitely was also clear to me that there is one particular storyline that I care the most about, and that even the one that I care about as well was kind of standing in the way of me continuing within that one storyline. So it's an interesting concept that I cannot talk about without going into spoilers, and I might do a spoiler-filled video about it. I mean, I will definitely do a spoiler-filled video at some point in which I give a summary of this book, but I might do a first one, spoiler-filled review or something like that, just to get my initial feelings for this book out there in a way that I can actually talk about this book, because this book is like most second books in a series are impossible to talk about to some extent, right? But this one is really impossible to talk about because of the basic concept of the second book is basically the full climax of the first one, and so you cannot talk about it without spoiling the first book. So yeah, I might do that just because there are certainly some things I want to talk about when it comes to my complicated feelings about this book. But so yes, 3.75 is where we're landing at right now. It might go up again if I were to reread it at some point. I'll definitely kind of try and make like a little bit of a summary for myself of like the main plot lines at this point in time, to see if I'm going to go for like a fully detailed recap at some point, or whether I'm just gonna leave it with a sort of like more condensed recap. But in any case, we have finished The Strength of the Few. I am very happy that I've been able to, over the past 2 weeks, really focus in on new books, on newly released books, on books that are part of my favorite series that I've consumed this year, past year, or even further back when we're looking at Kingstar Tidings, and having been able to really indulge in that. And you know, some of those are bigger wins than others. I was definitely hoping for a better experience with The Strength of the Few, but yeah, that is just what you get when you read sequels to books that you've absolutely adored. There is always a risk that you're enjoying it a little bit less, and so unfortunately I do have a little bit of that feeling when it comes to this book, but I'm also still very, very happy to have been able to pick it up almost the moment it released, to have been able to just like dig in immediately and get that excitement for this book early on, of like, you know, getting to read something that you've been looking forward to for months. So yeah, I'm hoping to definitely continue doing that, you know, like keeping my eyes out on books that are about to release and just like really indulging in reading them the moment that they hit, and when my sort of like excitement for them is still the highest. But yeah, that means we still have a ways to go within the month of November, though, you know, as I indicated, I'm going to mainly be focusing on the Ashfire King and those below, though I still have to finish those above. So I guess that those are my main focuses that I still kind of want to get done within the month of November, just because of the fact that those are the physical reads that I still have. And so I would love to reduce the TBR a little bit further so that I can end 2025 with less books than I started the year, which was 12. With having finished The Strength of the Few, we are back to 12. So we are at the exact number of physical books as I started the year with. So let's see if we can get rid of a few more, just so that we can even the scores. Well, not even the scores, just so that we can pull the balance in favor of this the end of the year. So yeah, with that I'm going to end this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and see you guys for the next one. Bye!